The bright lights of Orbital Station Harmony 7 never turned off. Day and night meant nothing in the cold darkness of space. Inside the massive station, thousands of beings from different worlds lived and worked together. Some were tall and thin, like walking trees. Others had forearms and purple skin. A few looked almost human but had silver eyes that glowed in the dark. Dae-ho Kim pushed his cleaning cart down the long white hallway. His brown jumpsuit was old and had small tears near the pockets. The name tag on his chest said maintenance, staff in 3 different languages. He was 34 years old but looked older. Working night shifts for 2 years had made dark circles under his eyes. His black hair was getting thin on top. The station was quiet at 3 in the morning. Most aliens were sleeping. Only security guards walked the halls with heavy boots that echoed off the metal walls. Dae-ho liked this time. No one bothered him. No one looked down at him like he was nothing. He could clean in peace and think about home. Home was Earth. Faraway Earth, where his little daughter So Young waited for him. She was 7 years old and could not talk properly. The doctor said her brain was different. The medicine to help her cost more money than Dae-ho made in 5 years. That was why he was here, cleaning alien bathrooms and picking up their trash. Every credit he earned went to pay for her treatment. Dae-ho stopped his cart outside the Draconian embassy. The sign on the door was written in symbols that looked like fire. Dragons lived here, real dragons that could fly between stars and breathe, different colored flames. They were proud creatures who thought they were better than everyone else. Their building was the fanciest part of the station. Everything was made of black stone that sparkled like diamonds. He used his key card to open the door. The embassy was empty and dark. Emergency lights cast long shadows on the walls. Dae-ho had cleaned here many times before. The dragons were messy. They left scales everywhere, and their claws scratched the floors. But they paid well for cleaning services, so the station manager always sent the best janitors. Dae-ho pulled his cart inside and started working. He mopped the marble floors until they shined. He emptied trash cans full of strange alien food. He dusted furniture that was built for creatures much larger than humans. Everything in the embassy was huge. Even the light switches were 10 feet, off the ground. As he worked, Dae-ho hummed a song from Korea. It was a children's song his mother used to sing. The same song he sang to So Young when she was scared. The melody echoed softly in the empty halls. Music always made him feel less alone. He was cleaning near the waste disposal area when he heard it. A soft sound like a bird in trouble, chirping and squeaking that did not belong in the silent embassy. Dae-ho stopped mopping and listened. The sound came again, definitely an animal in distress. Dae-ho followed the noise to a corner where 2 huge trash containers sat against the wall. The containers were made of metal and weighed as much as a small car. Between them was a narrow space barely wide enough for a person to fit. The chirping sounds were coming from that dark gap. He got down on his hands and knees and peered into the shadows. At first he saw nothing. Then something moved. 2 golden eyes looked back at him. They were the size of coins and glowed with their own light. Whatever was trapped between the containers was alive and scared. "Hello there, little one," Dae-ho said softly in Korean. "Are you stuck?" The chirping stopped. The creature was listening to him. Dae-ho could see it better now. It was small like a house cat but covered in scales that changed color in the dim light. Tiny wings were folded against its back. Baby claws scratched at the metal floor as it tried to move. This was a dragon baby, a real dragon youngling trapped and unable to escape. Dae-ho had never seen one before. The adult dragons kept their young hidden away from other species. This little one must have wandered off and gotten lost. "Do not worry," Dae-ho whispered. "I will help you." He went to his cleaning cart and got his best tools. A metal bar for moving heavy things. A small flashlight to see better. Some oil to make the containers slide easier. Working alone, it would be hard to move something so heavy. But Dae-ho had been poor his whole life. Poor people learned to solve problems with whatever they had. He put the metal bar between the wall and one container. Using all his strength, he pushed and pulled until the heavy box moved a few inches. The dragon baby chirped with excitement. It could see a way out now. Almost. "There, little friend." Daeho said. He pushed harder. His muscles burned and sweat dripped from his face. The container moved another inch, then another. Finally, there was enough space. The dragon baby squeezed through the gap and tumbled out onto the floor. It was beautiful. Scales that shimmered blue and green and gold. Eyes like liquid fire. Tiny, perfect claws and wings that would someday carry it between the stars. The baby dragon looked up at Daeho and made a sound. Not chirping this time, but something else. It was trying to copy the Korean words he had spoken. The sound came out wrong and garbled, but the intent was clear. This little creature was trying to talk to him. Smart baby. Daeho smiled. Very smart. He reached out slowly with one hand. The dragon sniffed his fingers, then rubbed its small head against his palm. The scales felt warm and smooth like polished stones. For a moment, janitor and dragon baby looked at each other in the quiet embassy. Two beings from different worlds sharing a simple moment of trust. Then the lights turned on. Bright white light flooded the embassy. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Voices shouted in different languages. Security was coming. Daeho stood up quickly. The dragon baby hid behind his legs, scared of the sudden noise and light. Through the open door came 3 security guards wearing black uniforms and carrying electric stun weapons. Their leader was a human with sergeant stripes on his shoulders. Kim Daeho, the sergeant said. What are you doing here? Daeho recognized the voice. Min-soo Park. They had grown up in the same neighborhood in Busan. Min-soo had joined the military and worked his way up to station security. Now he was investigating his old friend like a criminal. Just cleaning, sir, Daeho said. Like every night. Min-soo saw the dragon baby peeking out from behind Daeho's legs. His face went pale. Do you know what that is? A baby dragon, sir. It was trapped and scared, so I helped it. That is Prince Kaith, Min-soo said quietly, son of Empress Velra, the most powerful dragon in the galaxy. And you just found the biggest diplomatic crisis in station history. The baby dragon looked up at both humans and chirped softly. It did not understand the words, but it could feel the tension in the air. Something important was happening. Something that would change everything for the small creature that could not speak properly, and the poor human janitor who had saved it from the dark. The embassy doors burst open with a sound like thunder. Empress Velra entered the room and everything changed. She was massive beyond imagination. Her head alone was bigger than Daeho's entire body. Deep purple scales covered her long neck and powerful limbs. When she moved, the floor shook. When she breathed, the air itself seemed to tremble. Her golden eyes were exactly like her son's, but filled with ancient wisdom and terrible worry. She looked at the small dragon baby hiding behind Daeho's legs. Then she looked at the human janitor who had dared to touch royal blood. For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody even breathed. My child, she said in a voice like distant storms. The words came through a translation device that turned her dragon speech into human language. My precious Kaith, how long have you been lost? The baby dragon chirped once and tried to run to his mother, but his tiny legs were still shaking from being trapped. He stumbled and fell on the smooth floor. Daeho reached down without thinking and helped the little one stand up. The dragon baby looked at him with grateful eyes. Empress Velra watched this simple act of kindness. Something in her fierce expression softened just a little. Human, she said. You helped my son. Yes, Your Majesty, Daeho said. He had never talked to royalty before. He did not know if he should bow or kneel or run away. He was stuck between the containers, very scared. I am Empress Velra of the Draconian Hegemony. This is Prince Kaith, my youngest child. Her voice carried pride and pain in equal measure. Tell me, human, what is your name? Kim Daeho, Your Majesty. I clean the station. Min-soo Park stepped forward. Your Majesty, this man was just doing his job. He meant no harm to the prince. The Empress studied both humans with eyes that had seen the birth and death of stars. Sergeant Park, your friend, has done something remarkable tonight. My son has been missing for 6 hours. Our best trackers could not find him. Yet this simple cleaner discovered him by accident. She turned her great head toward her son. The baby dragon was still standing, next to Daeho's legs. He seemed more comfortable with the human than with his own mother. This fact was not lost on the Empress. "There is something you must understand about my son," she said slowly. "Prince Kaith suffers from a condition that brings great shame to our family. He cannot speak properly. In our culture, speech determines everything: social rank, intelligence, even the right to live. A dragon who cannot roar with authority has no place in our society." Daeho looked down at the baby dragon. Kaith was trying to make sounds with his small throat. The noises came out wrong and broken. It reminded Daeho of his daughter so young when she tried to say his name. "How old is he, Your Majesty?" Daeho asked. "In your human years, approximately 4. He should have begun formal speech training months ago, but every tutor we bring fails to help him. The High Council grows impatient. They whisper that perhaps it would be better if Kaith simply disappeared." The words hit Daeho like a physical blow. They wanted to abandon this child because he was different, because he could not speak the way others expected. It was the same fear that kept him awake at night when he thought about So Young's future. "Your Majesty," Daeho said carefully, "on Earth I have a daughter who also has trouble with words. She is 7 years old and still learning to talk. But she is smart and kind and beautiful. Being different does not make her worthless, Empress." Felra's eyes widened. She had never heard a being speak so boldly about defective offspring. In dragon culture, weakness was hidden away or eliminated. But this human talked about his damaged child with love and pride. "Show me," she said suddenly. "Show me how you would teach my son to speak." Daeho knelt down next to Prince Kaith. The baby dragon looked up at him with trusting golden eyes. "Hello, little friend," Daeho said softly in Korean. "Can you say hello?" Kaith opened his small mouth and tried to copy the sounds. What came out was garbled and rough, but it was clearly an attempt at communication. Daeho smiled and nodded encouragingly. "Good try. Very good try." He pointed to himself. "Daeho." Then he pointed to the baby dragon. "Kaith." The dragon baby understood. He pointed one tiny claw at Daeho and made a sound that was almost like the Korean name. Then he pointed to himself and chirped something that might have been his own name. "Excellent," Daeho said. "You are learning." Empress Velra watched this interaction with growing amazement. In 5 minutes, this human janitor had achieved more progress than months of traditional dragon teaching methods. Her son was actually trying to communicate instead of just crying in frustration. "How do you do this?" she asked. "Patience, Your Majesty, and kindness. My daughter taught me that some children learn differently. They need more time and more love, not more pressure." At that moment, another voice interrupted them. "Your Majesty, what is the meaning of this?" Ambassador Junwoo Lee entered the embassy wearing his formal diplomatic robes. He was an older, Korean man with silver hair and a worried expression. Behind him came several station officials and more security guards. "Ambassador Lee," the Empress said, "this human has been helping my son with his speech difficulty." Ambassador Lee looked at Daeho with alarm. "Your Majesty, Mr. Kim is just a maintenance worker. He has no training in language therapy or diplomatic protocol. Surely we can arrange for proper specialists to assist the prince." "I have tried proper specialists," the Empress replied coldly. "They all failed. This janitor succeeded in minutes, where they failed in months." Kaith had moved even closer to Daeho during the conversation. He seemed to understand that the adults were arguing about him. The baby dragon made a soft sound and tugged on Daeho's jumpsuit with one small claw. Daeho looked down and saw fear in those golden eyes. The same fear he had seen in So Young's face when doctors talked about her condition like she was not in the room. "It is okay," Daeho whispered in Korean. "I am here." Kaith tried to repeat the Korean words. The sounds were still wrong, but they carried meaning. Comfort, trust, connection between two beings who understood what it meant to be different. Ambassador Lee frowned. Your Majesty, we must consider the diplomatic implications. If word spreads that draconian royalty is being tutored by a human janitor, then word will spread that we value results over pride. The Empress cut him off. Mr. Kim, I am making you an official offer. Will you help teach my son to speak properly? Daeho thought about So Young waiting for him on Earth, about the medical bills that never seemed to get smaller, about the chance to help another child who needed patience and understanding. Yes, Your Majesty, he said, I will try my best. Prince Kaith chirped with joy and pressed his small warm body against Daeho's leg. For the first time in his young life, he had found someone who did not see his difference as a failure, someone who believed he could learn to speak with time and kindness. The Empress smiled, showing teeth like gleaming daggers, but her eyes were soft with hope. Then we begin tomorrow, she said, and may the stars witness what human patience can accomplish where dragon pride has failed. 3 days had passed since Daeho agreed to teach Prince Kaith. Every morning after his night shift ended, he would go to a small room in the Draconian embassy. The room had been specially prepared for their lessons, soft lighting that would not hurt dragon eyes, furniture sized for both a small dragon and a human, and most importantly, complete privacy from the watching eyes of dragon nobles. Kaith always arrived first. The baby dragon would curl up near the door and wait for his teacher with bright golden eyes. When Daeho entered, Kaith would chirp with joy and run to him on small legs that were getting stronger each day. Good morning, my little friend, Daeho would say in Korean. Ready to learn today? Morning, Kaith would try to repeat. The sounds came out rough and broken, but they were getting clearer. Each day brought small improvements that filled Daeho's heart with hope. Daeho had brought some of his cleaning supplies to use as teaching tools. A bottle of water became mul in Korean and water in Galactic Standard. A small light became bit and light. Simple words that connected sounds to things Kaith could see and touch. The baby dragon was incredibly smart. He understood that different sounds meant different objects. More than that, he began to understand that the same object could have different names in different languages. This was a concept that amazed even Daeho. You are brilliant, Daeho told him. Much smarter than the dragons who say you cannot learn. Kaith puffed out his small chest with pride. He was learning that words could carry feelings as well as meaning. Kind words made him feel warm and happy. Harsh words made him want to hide. On the 4th day, Empress Velra came to observe a lesson. She had to fold her massive body to fit through the doorway. Her presence filled the small room like a living mountain. Kaith became nervous when his mother watched. His sounds turned back into frightened squeaks. He does better when he is relaxed. Your Majesty, Daeho explained gently. Too much pressure makes it harder for him to speak. The Empress frowned. In dragon culture, we learn through challenge and competition. The strong rise and the weak fall behind. How else can we determine who is worthy? With respect, Your Majesty, maybe there are different kinds of strength. Kaith has the strength to keep trying even when words are hard for him. That takes great courage. Velra considered these words. She had never thought of her son's struggles as courageous. In dragon society, struggle meant weakness, but watching Kaith work so hard to make simple sounds, she began to see a different kind of bravery. After his mother left, Kaith slowly relaxed again. But Daeho could see the lesson had been difficult for him. The baby dragon kept looking at the door as if expecting more dragons to come and judge his progress. It is just you and me now, Daeho said softly. No one else. Just friends learning together. That afternoon, High Counselor Thakmor visited the embassy. He was an ancient dragon with black scales and cold silver eyes. He had served as advisor to 3 different dragon emperors and believed in the old ways without question. This experiment has gone on long enough, he told Empress Velra. The child makes no real progress. These human teaching methods are too soft and weak. Either Prince Kaith learns to roar with proper authority, or he should be declared unfit for royal status. He is learning, Velra protested. Slowly, but surely. Learning to chirp like a bird. Learning to make sounds like a primitive mammal. This is not dragon speech. This is embarrassment to our entire species." The counselor's words stung because they carried some truth. Kaith was learning to communicate, but not in the traditional dragon way. He was not learning to roar commands that would make lesser beings obey. He was learning to speak with gentleness and connection. That evening, Daeho sat in his small quarters thinking about his daughter so young. He had received a message from Earth that day. Her condition was getting worse. The doctors wanted to try a new treatment, but it would cost even more money. Money he did not have. He thought about giving up the teaching job and taking extra cleaning shifts, but then he remembered Kaith's trusting golden eyes. The baby dragon needed him, just like So Young needed him. The next morning, Daeho arrived at the lesson room with a new idea. He had been thinking about how So Young finally started talking. It was not through endless repetition of words, it was through music. "Today we try something different," he told Kaith. "We learn with singing." Daeho began to hum a simple Korean children's song, the same lullaby his mother had sung to him long ago. The melody was soft and repetitive, easy to remember. Kaith tilted his small head and listened. Dragon culture. Had music, but it was harsh and formal. Battle songs and victory chants. This human music was something entirely different. It was gentle and soothing. "Try to hum with me," Daeho encouraged. "Do not worry about words. Just make the sounds flow, like water." Kaith opened his mouth and tried. Instead of the broken squeaks that usually came out, something magical happened. The melody gave structure to his voice. The rhythm helped him control his breathing. For the first time, beautiful sounds flowed from his throat. "Yes," Daeho whispered. "That is perfect." They spent the next hour singing together. Kaith could not say the words yet, but he could carry the tune. His voice was actually quite lovely when it was not struggling to force out individual sounds. When Empress Velra heard her son singing through the closed door, she stopped in amazement. The sounds coming from the room were nothing like traditional dragon vocalizations, but they were beautiful in a way she had never heard before. Unfortunately, High Counselor Thakmor heard the singing too. His reaction was very different. "This is the final insult," he declared. "The prince sounds like a human infant singing nursery rhymes. This human has corrupted royal blood with his primitive methods." That very afternoon, Thakmor arranged for an official evaluation of Kaith's progress. A panel of the most respected dragon speech masters would test the young prince according to traditional standards. If he failed, the teaching experiment would end immediately. Daeho learned about the test from Minsu Park, who overheard the security briefing. "They are setting him up to fail," Minsu warned his old friend. "Dragon speech tests are about dominance and aggression. Everything you have been teaching goes against their system." "Then maybe their system is wrong," Daeho said quietly. "Maybe it is. But they have the power and you are just one human janitor. Be careful, Daeho. Some fights cannot be won with kindness." That night, Daeho could not sleep. Tomorrow would decide everything. Would Kaith be judged by the gentle progress he had made or by the harsh standards of dragon tradition? Would a baby dragon who was learning to sing be declared worthy, or would he be cast aside for not learning to roar in another part of the station? Prince Kaith curled up in his small bed and hummed the Korean lullaby softly to himself. He did not understand politics or tradition. He only knew that for the first time in his life, someone believed he could learn to speak. Someone thought his voice was worth hearing. Tomorrow would test whether love and patience could stand against centuries of rigid tradition. The fate of one small dragon hung in the balance. The evaluation day arrived like a storm on the horizon. Daeho could feel the tension in the air as he walked through the station corridors. Dragon nobles had been arriving all morning. Their massive forms filled the embassy halls. Their deep voices rumbled through the walls like distant thunder. Daeho found Prince Kaith in their usual lesson room. The baby dragon was hiding under a small table, his golden eyes wide with fear. He could sense that something important was happening. Something that involved him. "Come out, little friend," Daeho said gently. "It is time for our lesson." But Kaith would not move. He had heard the angry voices of the dragon nobles. He had seen his mother's worried expression. Even though he was young, he understood that today would decide his future. Scared, Kaith whispered in his broken mix of Korean and galactic standard. It was one of the first emotion words Daeho had taught him. Very scared, Daeho got down on his hands and knees and crawled under the table with him. In the small dark space, human and dragon youngling sat close together. I know you are scared, Daeho said softly. But remember what we practiced. Your voice is special. Different does not mean wrong. It just means you see the world in your own way. Before Kaith could respond, the door opened. A young human woman entered the room. She had long black hair tied back in a simple ponytail and wore the blue uniform of a research scientist. Her name tag read, Dr. Hee-Jin Choi, Linguistic Research, Division. Excuse me, she said quietly. Are you Mr. Kim Daeho? Crawled out from under the table. Yes. Can I help you? I have been studying your teaching methods with Prince Kaith. I am a linguistic researcher specializing in cross-species communication. What you have accomplished is remarkable from a scientific standpoint. Daeho felt confused. I am just helping a child learn to talk. There is nothing scientific about it. Dr. Choi smiled. That is exactly what makes it so interesting. You are using intuitive methods that work better than our most advanced theories. I have been documenting your progress without official permission. I hope you do not mind. What do you mean documenting? Recording your lessons. Analyzing the speech patterns. Studying how Prince Kaith responds to different teaching approaches. Mr. Kim, you may have discovered something that could change how we understand language development across different species. From under the table came a small chirping sound. Kaith was listening to their conversation even though he did not understand all the words. The evaluation today will be difficult, Dr. Choi continued. Traditional dragon speech tests focus on dominance displays, loud roaring, aggressive posturing, commands that show authority over others. Everything Prince Kaith is not naturally inclined toward. So he will fail. By their standards, yes. But I believe there is something more important happening here. Prince Kaith is not learning dragon speech. He is learning something entirely new, a form of communication based on connection rather than dominance. Dr. Choi knelt down and looked under the table where Kaith was hiding. Hello, Prince Kaith, she said in gentle galactic standard. My name is Hee-Jin. I am a friend of Mr. Kim. Kaith studied her with his bright golden eyes. He could sense kindness in her voice, the same quality that made him trust Daeho. Slowly, he crawled out from under the table. Friend, Kaith said carefully, pointing at Dr. Choi. Then he pointed at Daeho. Friend. Finally, he pointed at himself. Kaith, friend too. Dr. Choi's eyes widened. Did you hear that Mr. Kim, he just demonstrated advanced social concepts? Understanding friendship as a mutual relationship. Recognizing that connections can exist between multiple individuals. This is sophisticated communication theory. He is a smart boy, Daeho said proudly. Always has been. At that moment, Daeho's personal communicator beeped with an incoming message. The small screen showed a transmission from Earth, from the hospital where So Young was being treated. Daeho's hands shook as he read the message. So Young's condition had taken a sudden turn for the worse. The doctors needed to perform emergency surgery immediately. The cost would be enormous. More money than Daeho could ever hope to earn. The communicator slipped from his fingers and clattered on the floor. All the strength seemed to drain from his body. He had been working so hard to help his daughter, taking this dangerous job, living so far from home, and now it might all be for nothing. Dr. Choi picked up the communicator and read the message, her face filled with sympathy. Your daughter, Daeho nodded, unable to speak. Tears ran down his cheeks. All the worry and fear he had been holding inside came pouring out. Prince Kaith saw his teacher crying and did not understand why. But he understood sadness. He understood when someone was in pain. The baby dragon walked over to Daeho and pressed his warm, scaly body against the human's leg. Friend Deho hurt, Kaith said in his clearest voice yet. Kaith help friend. The words were simple, but perfect. For the first time, Prince Kaith had spoken a complete sentence in galactic standard, not because he was forced to by dragon tradition, but because he wanted to comfort someone he cared about. Dr. Choi stared in amazement. Mr. Kim, do you realize what just happened? Prince Kaith demonstrated empathy through language. He recognized your emotional state and responded with appropriate communication. This is not just speech development. This is emotional intelligence. But Deho barely heard her words. His mind was filled with images of So Young lying in a hospital bed far away. His little daughter who needed him and who he might lose because he could not earn enough money fast enough. I have to go to Earth, he said quietly. I have to be with my daughter. What about the evaluation today? Deho looked down at Prince Kaith, who was still leaning against his leg trying to offer comfort. I cannot abandon him either, but I cannot save them both. Dr. Choi thought for a moment. Mr. Kim, what if there was another way? What if we could prove that your teaching methods are not just helping one dragon child, but could revolutionize communication across all species? Would that be worth enough to help your daughter? What do you mean? The evaluation today will judge Prince Kaith by old standards. But what if we could show them something completely new? What if instead of trying to make him fit their system, we prove that his way of communicating is actually superior? Outside the room, they could hear dragon voices getting louder. The evaluation would begin soon. In a few hours, Prince Kaith would either be accepted as a worthy dragon or rejected as a failure. It is a big risk, Dr. Choi continued. If we succeed, it could change everything for both Prince Kaith and your daughter. If we fail together, Deho said, wiping away his tears. At least we try to do something right. Kaith looked up at both humans with trusting golden eyes. He did not understand the adult complications swirling around him. He only knew that his friend was sad and he wanted to help. In his small dragon heart, that felt like the most important thing in the universe. Friend sad, he said again, practicing the emotional words Deho had taught him. Make friend happy. For a child who supposedly could not speak properly, Prince Kaith had just expressed the most fundamental truth of all communication. Words were not about showing power over others. They were about connecting with others, about sharing feelings and building relationships. The evaluation would test whether the dragon nobles could understand this simple but revolutionary idea. Everything depended on whether an ancient species could learn something new from a human, janitor and a baby dragon who refused to fit their expectations. The great hall of the Draconian embassy had been transformed into a court of judgment. 5 enormous dragons sat in a semicircle, their scales gleaming under the bright lights. Each one was a master of traditional dragon speech. Each one represented centuries of rigid tradition and unchanging law. In the center of the hall stood a small platform. This was where Prince Kaith would be tested, where his future would be decided by voices that had never known doubt or gentleness. High Counselor Thakmore presided over the evaluation. His ancient black scales seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. His silver eyes held no warmth, no mercy, no hope for the small dragon who would soon face judgment. We gather today to determine the worthiness of Prince Kaith, Thakmore announced. His voice echoed through the hall like the sound of breaking stone. A dragon who cannot speak with proper authority has no place in our society. This is the law that has guided our people for 1,000 generations. Empress Velra sat to one side, her massive form tense with worry. She had fought for this chance for her son, but now she wondered if she had only delayed the inevitable. The other dragons looked at her with mixtures of pity and judgment. At the back of the hall, Deho and Dr. Choi watched from the observers section. They were the only non-dragons allowed to witness the evaluation. Deho's hands shook with nervousness. Everything he had worked for depended on the next few minutes. Bring forth the prince, Thakmore commanded. A side door opened and Prince Kaith entered the hall. He looked impossibly small in the vast space. His golden scales seemed dimmed by fear. His tiny wings pressed tight against his back. He walked slowly toward the platform, each step requiring tremendous courage. When Kythe reached the platform, he looked up at the massive dragons surrounding him. Their faces showed no kindness, no encouragement. Only the cold judgment of creatures who had never failed at anything. "Prince Kythe," Thakmor said formally, "you will now demonstrate your mastery of proper dragon speech. Begin with the roar of authority. Show us that you can command lesser beings to obey your will." Kythe opened his small mouth and tried to roar. What came out was a tiny squeaking sound that barely carried across the platform. The watching dragons shook their massive heads in disappointment. "Again," Thakmor commanded, "louder, with more force." Kythe tried again. This time his voice cracked entirely. He made no sound at all except for a small whimper of distress. "Pathetic," one of the evaluating dragons muttered. "This is what comes of allowing humans to corrupt dragon training." Dr. Choi leaned close to Daeho. "This is not going to work. He is too frightened to show what he can really do." Daeho watched as Kythe struggled with the traditional tests. The baby dragon tried to perform the roar of dominance, the growl of territorial claim, the snarl of social superiority. Every traditional dragon vocalization that had nothing to do with the gentle communication he had been learning. With each failure, Kythe seemed to grow smaller, his golden eyes filled with tears that dragons were not supposed to shed. His tiny body shook with the effort of trying to be something he was not. "Enough," Thakmor declared. "This demonstration has proven what we suspected. Prince Kythe is fundamentally defective. He cannot perform even the most basic dragon speech patterns." "Wait," a voice called out from the observers section. Everyone turned to see Daeho standing up. The human janitor looked impossibly small in the hall full of dragons, but his voice carried clearly through the vast space. "Hi, Counselor. May I ask Prince Kythe one question?" "You dare interrupt this sacred evaluation. I ask permission to speak to him as his teacher. Just one question." Empress Velra raised her massive head. "I grant this request. Let the human speak." Thakmor's silver eyes blazed with anger, but he could not override the mother's wishes. "One question only." Daeho walked down to the platform where Kythe stood trembling. He knelt down so his face was level with the baby dragon's golden eyes. When he spoke, it was not in galactic standard or formal dragon language. It was in the gentle Korean he had always used during their lessons. "Little friend," Daeho said softly, "what do you want to say to your mother?" The question was simple. No roaring required. No dominance or authority needed. Just one being asking another to share what was in his heart. Kythe looked up at his teacher with surprise. Then he looked across the hall at his mother, who sat among the stern judges with worry carved into every scale. Slowly, the baby dragon began to speak. Not in the harsh formal tones of traditional dragon speech, not in the broken squeaks he had made during the official tests, but in the gentle mix of languages that Daeho had taught him to use when words came from the heart. "Mother," Kythe said in clear galactic standard, "I love you very much. I know I am different from other dragons. I know I cannot roar like father or my big brothers. But I am still your son." The hall fell completely silent. Every dragon stopped breathing. They had never heard one of their kind speak with such raw emotion. Kythe continued, switching between Korean words and galactic standard, as his feelings overcame formal language barriers. "I am sorry I cannot be the dragon you wanted, but I want to be the dragon I am. I want to talk to other beings and make them happy. I want to help when someone is sad. I want to use words to build friendship instead of showing power." Tears rolled down the baby dragon's small face. "Teacher Daeho showed me that being different is not being broken. He has a daughter who is different too, and he loves her very much. Maybe you can love me even though I talk soft instead of loud." The silence in the hall stretched on forever. Then Empress Velra rose from her place among the judges. Her massive form moved across the hall with surprising grace. She reached her son and very gently touched his small head with one enormous claw. My son, she whispered, and her voice carried more power than any roar. My precious, brave, beautiful son. Hi. Counselor Thakmor found his voice first among the shocked dragons. This is not dragon speech, this is emotional weakness displayed in public. This proves the child is unfit for royal status. But something unexpected happened. Another voice rose from the panel of judges. No, said Master Corvain, the oldest and most respected speech teacher. This is something I have never heard before. The ancient dragon looked at Prince Kythe with new eyes. In all my centuries of teaching proper dragon speech, I have heard roars of anger, growls of dominance, snarls of aggression, but I have never heard a dragon speak with such clarity about love. Dr. Choi stepped forward from the observer section. Honored dragons, may I present some research findings? A human researcher has no place in this evaluation, Thakmor protested. Let her speak, Empress Velra commanded. I want to hear what she has learned. Dr. Choi activated a holographic display that showed brain scans and communication patterns. What Prince Kythe demonstrated today was not a failure of dragon speech. It was the evolution of dragon speech. He has developed the ability to communicate complex emotional concepts with perfect clarity. This is not weakness. This is advanced intelligence. She showed recordings of other species attempting to communicate with traditional dragon roaring methods. Your current speech patterns create fear and submission in other beings. But Prince Kythe's methods create understanding and cooperation. In a galaxy where dragons must work with many different species, which approach is more valuable? Master Corvain studied the data with growing amazement. Are you suggesting that this child has naturally developed superior communication abilities? I'm suggesting that Prince Kythe represents the next step in dragon evolution. Not physical evolution, but social evolution. The ability to build bridges between different species instead of dominating them. Daeho still knelt beside Kythe on the platform. The baby dragon had pressed close against his human teacher, drawing comfort from the gentle presence that had never judged him for being different. High Counselor, Daeho said quietly. On Earth we have a saying, the strongest tree is not the one that never bends. It is the one that bends with the wind and still grows toward the sun. He looked up at all the massive dragons surrounding them. Maybe Prince Kythe is not broken. Maybe he is exactly what your people need to grow stronger. The evaluation had become something none of them expected, not a test of traditional abilities, but a challenge to traditional thinking. The question was no longer whether Kythe could roar like other dragons. The question was whether the dragons could learn to hear the power in a whisper. The great hall remained silent for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. 5 ancient dragons sat frozen in thought, trying to process what they had witnessed. A baby dragon speaking of love instead of conquest. A human janitor, teaching wisdom to their greatest minds, everything they believed about strength and communication being turned upside down. Master Corvain was the first to move. The oldest of the speech masters rose from his position and walked slowly toward the platform where Prince Kythe still stood close to Daeho. Young Prince, the ancient dragon said, his voice gentle for the first time in centuries. Will you speak with me? Kythe looked up at the massive dragon who had spent lifetimes teaching others to roar with authority, but now those ancient eyes held only curiosity and kindness. Hello, sir, Kythe said politely in his soft, clear voice. Are you angry with me for talking wrong? Wrong, Master Corvain repeated thoughtfully. No, little one. I begin to think you are talking more right than any of us have in generations. The old master turned to address the other judges. My colleagues, I have taught dragon speech for over 800 years. I have heard the roars of emperors and the commands of generals. But today I heard something that shook me to my very core. He paused and looked back at Kythe. I heard a dragon speak with complete honesty about his feelings. No posturing, no attempt to dominate or intimidate. Just truth spoken with perfect clarity. If this is not the highest form of communication, then what is High Counselor Thakmor's Silver eyes blazed with fury. Master Corvain, you cannot seriously suggest that we abandon thousands of years of tradition for the squeaking of a defective hatchling. I suggest that perhaps our traditions have made us forget the true purpose of speech, Master Corvain replied calmly. Communication is not about forcing others to submit. It is about sharing ideas and building understanding. Another judge, Master Veldana, nodded slowly. The young prince demonstrated something remarkable. When he spoke to his mother, every being in this hall understood exactly what he meant. His words created connection instead of distance. Connection with inferior species, Thakmor spat. Dragons do not need to connect. We are meant to rule. Empress Velra had heard enough. She rose to her full magnificent height, her purple scales reflecting the hall lights like jewels. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of absolute royal command. High Counselor Thakmor, you are relieved of your position. Your services are no longer required. The ancient black dragon stared in shock. You cannot dismiss me. I have served this court for. You have served outdated thinking that nearly cost me my son. The Empress cut him off. Leave now, or be removed by force. Security. Dragons moved forward to escort the disgraced counselor from the hall. As he was led away, Thakmor's voice echoed with bitter prophecy. You will regret this decision, Velra. Mark my words, this weakness will destroy us all. But Empress Velra was no longer listening. She walked across the hall and knelt down, beside the platform where her son waited. For the first time since his hatching, she looked at Kaith without disappointment or worry. She saw only love. My son, she said, and tears flowed freely down her massive face. My brave, intelligent, perfect son, can you forgive your mother for being so foolish? Kaith did not hesitate. He threw his small arms around his mother's enormous snout and pressed his face against her warm scales. I love you, Mama, he whispered, in the gentle voice that had caused so much controversy. Always love you. The remaining judges voted unanimously. Prince Kaith would not only be accepted as a worthy dragon, but he would be honored as a pioneer of advanced communication techniques. His methods would be studied and taught throughout the draconian hegemony. Dr. Choi stepped forward with official documents. Your Majesty, based on our research findings, the Galactic Communication Institute wants to establish a new department for cross-species language development. We would like to offer Mr. Kim the position of Chief Development Specialist. Dae-ho stared at the papers with disbelief. But I am just a janitor. I have no formal education in language theory. You have something better than education, Dr. Choi smiled. You have wisdom born from love, and according to these salary figures, you will be able to afford the very best medical care for your daughter. The number on the contract made Dae-ho's knees weak. It was more money than he had ever imagined earning. Enough to save so young and give her the future she deserved. There is one more thing, Empress Velra said. Mr. Kim, your daughter's medical condition. Our finest healers would be honored to provide treatment. Dragon medical science is quite advanced. Your Majesty, I could not possibly afford. It would be our gift, the Empress said firmly. A small token of gratitude for giving me back my son. 6 months passed quickly. Orbital Station Harmony 7 had become the center of a revolution in interspecies communication. Beings from across the galaxy came to learn the Kaith method of gentle language instruction. Prince Kaith had grown taller and stronger. His scales shone with health, and his golden eyes sparkled with confidence. He now spoke 7 different languages fluently and served as a junior ambassador for peaceful contact between species. Most importantly, he was happy. The fear and shame that had marked his early life were replaced with joy and purpose. He loved his work helping other young beings who struggled with communication differences. Dae-ho had received the most wonderful news of his life. So Young's surgery had been completely successful. Dragon medical technology had not only cured her speech problems, but had enhanced her cognitive development. She was now thriving in school and learning multiple languages with the same natural talent her father had discovered in himself. The holographic message from Earth showed So Young taking her first clear, confident steps while saying, Daddy in perfect Korean. Tears of joy streamed down Daeho's face as he watched his daughter's miracle recovery. Teacher Daeho happy, Prince Kaith observed, using his gift for emotional recognition. Good news from home. The best news possible, my friend, Daeho replied. My daughter is well and strong, just like you. They were sitting in Daeho's new office, which was decorated with children's drawings sent from Earth and small dragon sculptures, gifted by grateful families. On the walls hung certificates and awards recognizing their groundbreaking work in communication development. Dr. Choi entered carrying the latest research reports. The program is expanding faster than we ever hoped, she announced. 17 different species have requested training in emotional communication techniques. The Galactic Council wants to make it mandatory for all diplomatic personnel. It started with one scared little dragon and one patient human, Daeho mused. Who would have thought it would change so much? Prince Kaith curled up contentedly, in his favorite spot near Daeho's desk. Teacher showed Kaith that different is special. Now Kaith shows others. Good different spreads like happy song. Through the office window, they could see the busy corridors of the space station. Humans walked alongside dragons, sharing conversations in gentle tones that would have been impossible before their revolution. Other species joined in, creating a symphony of peaceful communication that echoed through the halls. Ambassador Jun Woo. Lee stopped by to deliver the final piece of wonderful news. Mr. Kim, I thought you should know. The Galactic Council has officially recognized the Kaith method as a fundamental breakthrough in diplomatic relations. They want to name the new communication treaty after you and the prince. That is a great honor, sir, Daeho said humbly. But the real victory belongs to Prince Kaith. He was brave enough to be himself when everyone wanted him to be something else. And you were wise enough to see his true worth, the ambassador replied. Sometimes the greatest victories come not from conquest, but from understanding. That evening, Daeho sat in his comfortable quarters preparing for sleep. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities to help beings across the galaxy learn to communicate with kindness instead of force. His personal communicator chimed with an incoming message. The screen showed So Young's smiling face from her bedroom on Earth. She was wearing pajamas decorated with little dragons and holding a stuffed animal that looked remarkably like Prince Kaith. Good night, Daddy, she said in clear, perfect Korean. I love you very much. Thank you for helping the dragon baby talk. Maybe someday I can help babies talk too. Good night, my precious daughter, Daeho replied, his heart full of joy. Sweet dreams. Daddy will be home soon. After ending the call, Daeho looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere among those distant lights was Earth, where his daughter slept peacefully knowing her father's love had not only saved her, but had changed the galaxy itself. A soft knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Prince Kaith peeked into the room, carrying a small Korean picture book that Daeho had given him. Teacher Daeho, will you read bedtime story? The young dragon asked politely. Want to practice Korean words before sleep? Of course, my friend, Daeho smiled. Come sit with me. Prince Kaith curled up beside his human teacher, just as he had during those first frightening lessons months ago. But now there was no fear, only the comfortable bond between teacher and student, between two beings who had found strength in their differences.